What's up? It's Bridger Frederick. Welcome to my closet. If this is your first time in the closet, then welcome. And if you are joining me for multiple times, then welcome back. Today I'm going to talk about maybe not all of, but I'm going to talk about the worst thing about having a spinal cord injury and the best thing about having a spinal cord injury. Some of the worst things, some of the best things, why I would absolutely never change it for the world. I think it's one of the greatest things that's ever happened to me. And if you have a spinal cord injury, you know someone with a spinal cord injury, I think by, the middle or the end of this video, you might see pretty clearly that is the case for you as well. Not necessarily, everyone's different, but just hear me out on this one. So let's start with some of the worst things about having a spinal cord injury. The crushing pain for me, I got thrown, I was inside my truck against the ceiling and went through a telephone pole going 80 miles per hour and crushed my entire right and back half of my body. And I have such incredible amounts of pain, nerve pain, actual pain, just crushing, debilitating, constant, chronic pain. And there's no real treatment for it. I did the opiates in the beginning, did the nerve medicines, the whatever it is, like Lyrica and gabapentin, stuff like that. It's all garbage. Muscle relaxers, it's all poisonous, horrific garbage. It's not an option, not a long-term option for chronic pain. It's a suicide in a pill. It's a slow, it's like smoking. It's just a slow, gradual, pill by pill towards your death. No matter how responsibly or irresponsibly you use it, it's killing you, and it's masking your true personality and not letting your light out. They're really bad. But the pain, the fear, the crushing fear of the fear of missing out, the fear of what's going to happen, the fear of living a life in pain all the time, the fear of not being able to provide for your family, to provide for the ones you love, to find someone who loves you in this condition, to have children, the fear of not being able to have children, the fear of being able to protect your children and provide for them, the fear of dying early because of complications or whatever happens. There's a lot of, if you don't take care of your health and really take full responsibility for helping yourself and nutrition and sleep and exercise and everything, and loving relationships and meditation, if you don't do the full gamut of health stuff, as you age with spinal cord injury, there's a lot of consequences you might have to face, especially 10, 20, 30 years down the road. You got to take knowledge or your health into your own hands and get out there and hunt for knowledge, hunt for understanding, learn about the human body, and really be on a lifelong healing journey. Whether or not your goal is to walk again is irrelevant. If you want to just be happy and be able to enjoy life to its fullest, you got to take health very, very seriously with a spinal cord injury. And so that's a huge fear. The fear of death, has been very real. I've wondered, especially as I had ulcerative colitis as well. I was just so sick all the time. There's my weight shift. So sick all the time that I was wondering, how long am I going to live? I was just thinking, you can't be in this much pain. You can't hurt that bad. It's impossible for this to last for very long. There has to be, am I 2 years away from death? Am I 5 years away from death? I was a human can't exist in this condition for that long. That's how it felt for so much of the time. One of the worst things about spinal cord injury, crushing, unbelievable, relentless failure. Just failure I've never experienced before. Waking up in the morning, giving 100% full effort as hard as I could during the day, and hardly being able to accomplish the bare minimum tasks of being able to take care of myself, wash, prepare food, clean my house. Grim feeling when you just give every single ounce of energy you can and fail to even do the most basic of human tasks. And it was a combination of spinal cord injury and being very sick, like with gut health problems. Like the two, it was a 1-2 combo. I mean, I was just down and out, and there's no answers out there for gut health. It's just so complex and so complicated. You have to, it's trial by fire. Like, you have to just trial and error, see what works for your body, and try and fail. Like, so much suffering and confusion and no hope on the horizon. That is by far the worst time of my entire life. Was some of the times encapsulated in those first couple years that I was injured. Some of it was the most beautiful times, and we're going to get to the best parts about having a spinal cord injury here soon. So it's not just all doom and gloom here. This is just, a fair assessment of the worst things that I experienced. And so, yeah, the failure was really hard for me to deal with. I'd always been willing to put in the work to try. Like, there was nothing in my life where I felt like I couldn't accomplish it if I just tried harder. I would always put the work in. If I had to, if I had something to do in a day and I had to turn it into a 35-hour project, I would just work for 35 hours. And that was no longer an option. Like, I would give out. I would physically not be able to continue. It was so tough. And so I'm going to move on to kind of awkward transition there into what is the best part about having a spinal cord injury. All of those things I just named as well. Everything about that, the pain, the suffering, the confusion, the hurt, the fear, all the darkness, and all of it is the best part about having a spinal cord injury. It really is. I wouldn't change it for the world. I am so deeply grateful for all of that hurt, all of that pain, all of that confusion, and let me tell you why. It is absolutely like a real law of physics or life or something. It's something in the universe, but there is a perfect duality to our world. If you allow there to be, you can choose to live in misery, you can choose to suffer, you can choose a lot of things. But the thing is all of that suffering, it's like a trampoline just being pushed down and down and down and down. And every little thing that gets piled on, more pain, more fear, another medication that just makes you sicker, a broken bone because you fall, a pressure sore, just, a girlfriend leaving you, a parent just not giving a crap anymore, just losing things financially because you can't provide, missing out on opportunities. It's all just stacking up on that trampoline and just pushing it down and down and down. And at some point, you will be given the choice, the ability, the option, through perseverance and through searching for that opportunity, to just suddenly remove all of the stuff from that trampoline, and it has to rebound because of some crazy law of the universe equally as high up as it went down. And all of that pain, all of that suffering allows you to experience bliss, happiness, joy, clarity. All the confusion turns to clarity. Like, it all is, and I don't know why. I don't fully understand the mechanics of how the universe works, but it does repay you. It is fair. There's a yin and a yang, like a black and a white. If you cannot experience happiness to the same degree unless you have experience the opposite end of that. The more you suffer, the more happiness you become capable of feeling. And if you're in the depths of misery, of depression, of, suffering and pain, it doesn't seem clear. That doesn't seem possible. I know that, in theory, I believe that at times, but it didn't get rid of the hopelessness, the crushing hurt. Like, it didn't. Just knowing that might be the case wasn't enough. It took hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of days of waking up and trying as hard as I could and just basically falling flat on my face, just getting punched in the face over and over again, failing to live up to my own expectations. Just waking up, trying as hard as I could, and at the end of the day, knowing I did not accomplish what I wanted to accomplish, and I failed. Like, every day, day in and day out, until the failure just got so much, I couldn't stand it anymore, that I had to start systematizing. I had to start eliminating little tiny things that were, adding to that failure, and taking out things that there was so many little pieces, and it was one day at a time. If there was 100 reasons I failed to accomplish what I wanted to accomplish, being whatever, I was too tired, I was in so much pain that I had to lay down sooner than I wanted to, I had brain fog, and was sick, and was having to use the bathroom so much that I literally couldn't accomplish anything. And so I just had to start systematizing and looking at the ways in which I could gain a little incremental edge, so I could get closer and closer to having some days that were successes. Because it was years, like a year and a half or so of maximum effort and minimum result. I mean, it was hard. I mean, it was really, really hard. And I can honestly say that it was so worth it, because I have broken into a level of contentedness and confidence for the future and clarity. And it ebbs and flows. It's not just constant all the time, like boom, like everything got removed from the trampoline, it sprung up, and I'm just happy all the time, constantly. Like, no, it's systematically getting happier every single day, and putting practices in place that maintain that happiness, that maintain these feelings that are now possible. But it is without a doubt true that without the pain, like there cannot be without the pain, there cannot be as much pleasure. I'm not saying you can't have pleasure if you've never had pain. It just, there is some greater amount of pleasure that you get from life. Without the confusion, the clarity does not feel as clear and doesn't feel as good after months and months of pain and confusion. When you're clear, when your future, you can see it and feel it again for the first time in years, it is such a beautiful, just relieving feeling. And the contentedness after all of the suffering, out of all of the despair and the wishing it was different, and the just not knowing how to change it, all of a sudden you can turn that into just amazing, fully palatable, I lost the word for a second there, contentedness, fully and totally palatable contentedness, just being content and happy with the moment, looking around and just being so thankful and grateful and seeing beauty in everything, and I was like a pretty happy person before I had a spinal cord injury, by all intents and purposes, compared to most people I know. I had, a pretty epic life and had enjoyed it thoroughly, and was really proud of what I'd done. I was quite happy overall with my life. Like right up before I got spinal cord injured, that might not have been the happiest point of my life, just because I had compromised so much of my goals. I had compromised my values in how to attain those goals. And it's not that I did anything innately like bad that caused me to get spinal cord injured, but I was just so far off my personal values of how I wanted to go about it, and what I needed to do, and what I wanted to provide for the world, and how I wanted to be an act, that, I had become quite separated from myself at that point. But for the rest of my life, I experienced a lot of joy and a lot of happiness, a lot of blissful moments and special stuff, and long periods of contentedness. I was not as anxious as most people I know were. Pretty much just did whatever I wanted. I was completely free for, basically my whole life. I just quit going to school, quit going to college, and just pursued knowledge in its own right through books and conversations with other people, and worked really, really, really hard at all the jobs, and absorbed as much knowledge as I could from any work that I was doing, and spent years traveling around the world, just taking huge tracts of time off and spending tons of time going through all of my childhood trauma and really processing stuff and working through it with people who helped me heal and were willing to listen to me and understand me. And so I was a pretty well-rounded individual compared to a lot of people before I got injured. And I can still say this with 100% confidence that that suffering is a gift. It gives you more empathy for other people forever. I never would have once you've been in so much pain, there's only either you get hate, if you think it's happening to you, then you might get hateful and think the world's a mean place and want to cause pain on other people. That's what you see happen a lot of the times with really powerful, crappy leaders that have caused so much hurt and destruction in the world, and with all sorts of people that, with criminals and serial killers, and there's oftentimes pain, depending on how you process it, you'll want to cause more pain and think that you have to be defensive against the world. But if you think the pain's happening for you, if you're trying to learn from it, if this sucks, I don't want this to be happening right now, I hate this pain, but I know it's making me stronger, I know it's bringing me somewhere, I don't know what I'm supposed to learn from it, but please let me learn something from this. And eventually, with that kind of perspective, you get to a point where you can't believe other people feel this much pain, because obviously you're not alone. I'm not alone. I'm not in the most pain anyone's ever been in. And just the idea that someone else is out there suffering as much as I am makes me have unlimited amounts of energy. Now that I'm feeling better, now that I've got my systems in place to keep leveling my energy up and leveling my happiness up, now that that's happening, I have so much purpose and drive to just find ways to get resources together, to find these people, to give them knowledge, to give them the tools that I needed when I was at that point. It really, it's a massive, massive attribute that I've gained, just this deep feeling of empathy for other people and I'm not saying I was heartless before or cold, but I just didn't know. I was never in real pain myself. Anytime something was unpleasant or terrible, I had the luxury of either quickly solving it, it was an easy to remedy thing, or being able to escape it and go to another place, go to another thing, get away from it. And there's no escaping a spinal cord injury. You can't run away from it, and it's not a quick fix. No matter, there's no Band-Aids to put on this one that just make it feel better. There's no creams. It's a long-term deal. So without that, I can't imagine ever going back to where I was before. There's so much. Everything would be so easy. If I could somehow just become able-bodied right now with all this knowledge, you'd be a superhuman, because just going through, getting to the point, adding incrementally on to my abilities for the last years has felt like a superhuman task, just to live a full day and get something done and take care of myself in the way that I need to move the needle of healing forward, and just to maintain my health so that I don't face any major setbacks. So yeah, I guess that's most of what I had to say. I just hope that this reaches anyone out there who's at that point that I was 6 months ago, 10 months ago, a year ago, 18 months ago, where it was just such a grind. There was no end in sight. It was endless amounts of pain and just confusion. It was so much confusion and just fog. I couldn't see how this could, no matter how much faith I had in the fact that this was happening for a reason, that didn't make it clear why it was happening. And the whole point is it might not be clear for a while, but you have to slog on. And the faster you start tweaking your perspective, mindset's everything in this life. Humans are crazy powerful in their ability to see the world however they want it. And the internet has made that very clear, that you can believe the most outlandish, stupid, unfounded, crap ever. And I'm pretty understanding of like different perspectives and stuff, but I'm just saying there's stuff out there that there is so much evidence against it that it's like, it's voluminous. It's mountains of it. There's no chance of it being true. And people can believe it to the core of their being. Our brains are amazing. You can trick them into believing anything you want. And I'm not saying you have to trick yourself into being happy. It's not that. But you do have to teach yourself to be happy, to see the opportunity in things, and to really, the game changer that I've kind of hammered on in my last bits of content I've made, because it's been such a huge thing for me, is just turning it from happening to you to happening for you. That's huge. That dial is massive. Then everything is, you're wondering why it's happening for you. Like, rather than, poor me, why is this happening to me? I can't, like, I did all this. Like, why do I deserve this? What's the meaning of deserving this? Like, that's one way to do it, but I just don't know where that leads. Rather than like, oh, like, this is gnarly, this hurts, but this is part of a long-term lesson that I'm going to gain from. The world wants you to gain what you want. It wants you to have whatever it is you want. Like, I don't think there's preordained destiny. I think there's tons and tons of free will in it, but the free will is you define a goal, you set your heart on it, whatever it is you want. The world, if you want it bad enough, the world is going to recognize that, especially if you want it bad enough for the right reasons, have your intentions in line, and if you want to heal, you want to be healthy, you want to be happy, you want to be rich, you want to live in a fully accessible house, or find a partner, the perfect partner, or have children, or get whatever you want, whatever it is you want, like the world will start to coalesce and form towards your having that as soon as you define what it is and decide that you're heading towards it. That's the most important part. Define what it is you want and just start heading towards it. And then whatever happens along that journey, no matter what it is, whatever happens, no matter how bad it is, like, you're already paralyzed and you're going down the sidewalk and someone jumps the curb and runs you over again in your wheelchair. As soon as you get to a point where things like that happen and you think to yourself, and it's obviously not easy, like, it doesn't just, just become like enlightened and everything, you gotta, like, something like that happens and you have your original reaction, and the faster you can get to the point where you're like asking the question, so why did this happen? What is this for? What am I supposed to learn? How can I gain from this? As soon as, and you're like, that it's just one piece in the puzzle to you, that if it didn't happen, you couldn't get your dream. That's the real that doesn't work. That's when you really get into the architecture of the mind and how this works. That didn't make very much sense. That wasn't very well articulated. But what I'm saying is, you really get into the powerful crux of this tool when you start believing that the bad things that happen to you are actually the only way that you could achieve your dream. And maybe it's because you got off the path. You got off the path and started wandering, and if something abrupt didn't get you, like, it had to be abrupt. That's what it was for me. I got off the path. I started wandering away from what I really wanted, from my true dream. I got off the path, and like, yeah, I could have had a little nudge back to it, but I would have wandered again. I could have had a little nudge, like, little bad things could have happened, but I wouldn't have seen it. And I would have ran out of time. I would have got old and sad and decrepit, and then been unable to have the time left necessary to build what I really am meant to build in this world. And the only way to really arrest my pathway and push me back towards what I want fast enough was a car accident that caused my spinal cord injury. It's the only thing that could change my extreme enough to knock my trajectory back in time to still have enough time between now and when I die to accomplish everything that I need to accomplish while I'm here. So that's when you can really start making rapid change in your life. When something unpleasant happens to you and you feel a negative emotion, whatever it is, you feel mad, you feel sad, you feel anything like anxious, anything, any negative emotion, something happens, you feel negative emotion and you think, wait, why is this happening to me? How does this person flipping me off in traffic play into the long-term goals that I have? And at first, that person flipping you off in traffic plays into your long-term goals because that's your training. That's the time where, rather than letting that flip, and this is my greatest weakness. I use the traffic example because anyone who's ridden with me knows that I have so much trouble not cursing and being so, especially in Florida. Like, Florida's next level. Like, someone's constantly endangering your life and just doing something unfathomably, like, either just stupid or unsafe. Like, it's not I don't think it's very outlandish to have a road rage problem in Florida. It's craziness out there. There's like virtually no law enforcement. I don't think they enforce hardly any laws here. I think it's just a free-for-all. Like, it's nuts. And so that person who flips me off in traffic or cuts you off or whatever, right now their purpose is to make you angry so that you can use this tool and quickly train yourself not to be angry, to just assume automatically, like, oh, they must be late, they must not, like, so assume something good. Oh, they flipped me off, they must be having a really bad day, their spouse must have been mean to them. Like, you have to reframe, and that's the reframing your whole perspective, changing your worldview. And it seems minute, but that person getting mad at you and invoking that unnecessary emotion in you and then you retraining it is actually like they were one little stepping stone of growth towards your goal. And without them, you wouldn't have grown. You wouldn't have got better at reframing your anger, about reframing why things are happening. So everything is actually just a little, I don't know, a little thing happening to help you out. It's really, really, really powerful. I implore anyone who wants to have a better tomorrow to start trying this. It is without a doubt the thing that has helped me the most, is just deciding that all the things in the past that have happened to me are critical components in who I am today, that are all going to play out in some advantageous way long term and allow me to help and serve and provide and make decisions at critical points. They're all components of the whole, that without all of those little events, I wouldn't be able to do what I needed to do. And I think that's true of all of us. Like, wherever you're at right now, you're perfectly positioned to help someone who was if you're at your worst ever, then you're perfectly positioned to become someone who can help the you right now. Does that make sense? Like, I don't know how to word this, but you are poised to help the worst version of yourself. Whenever you were the lowest or most hurt or most afraid or most self-conscious or most alone, like, imagine, like, if that's not you right now, imagine the 16-year-old you or the 23-year-old you, or whenever you were the most hurt, the most alone, the most unsure about it. Well, you're either going to equip yourself to help that version of you in another human, or you have overcame that and you're in a position where you're a lot better off. And now that person, that 16-year-old out there who's scared and unsure, like, they need your knowledge because you were them. And now we have the power of the internet. You can share that and provide that and spread that, and the person who needs it most can find it. And if you just help one other person who needs it most, then it's all worth it. Like, this is awesome. This technology we have, this ability to communicate, this spreading of knowledge. I don't know where I would be without YouTube. YouTube has been podcasts, YouTube, podcasts, like blogs. It's just insane the amount of information I can get from people I idolize. Like, I can look up the basic characteristics of a human being that I want to be, like a strong, loyal businessman, like badass, in shape. I could type like that in and Google would pop someone out, and I could just go research their life, and they would probably have a ton of content sharing exactly how they did it, a literal blueprint to be a person that I idolize. You know, that's so easy now. And like, you obviously don't just pick someone and do everything that they do, but like, I can, anything that I want to excel in. If I want to get good at working out, I can pick, you know, my workout idol. If I want to get good in business, I can pick my business idol. I can, you know, there's just so much opportunity out there, and it's really awesome. And so I hope that this landed with someone out there, and you can start realizing that nothing's happening to you. It's all happening for you. And if you're suffering, then be grateful that you're suffering. Say, thank God, thank the universe, thank the quantum field, whatever it is that, you know, you believe and is your religion or philosophy. You really thank something that you're able to suffer, that you're able to feel pain, that, because you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that for every ounce of pain you feel, you get to feel equal amounts of happiness, as much happiness and as much bliss. And it's very fortunate that, you know, you're having this experience, no matter how bad it is and how crazy that sounds when I say that. So hope that did something for someone out there. Thank you so much for hanging out in my closet with me. I super appreciate it. Eventually, I'm going to have a studio and a microphone that sounds awesome and all that stuff. But for now, the only place in my house that sounds good is my closet. So we're hanging out in here. I appreciate you so much. Reach out, hit me up in the comments, follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Bridgerly Frederick on both, TikTok, Bridgerly Frederick. I'll be doing most of my producing on YouTube and TikTok because Instagram is owned by Facebook and Facebook is dead. It's just such a terrible platform. Every time I get, oh no, lost you there for a second. But it was like life was interrupting me saying, don't rant about Facebook right now. Yeah, I post a lot of stuff to Facebook, but it's like all through Instagram. And most of the stuff I post through Instagram is through TikTok. And YouTube is really the medium I enjoy most. Trying to learn TikTok because I think it's got an amazing algorithm that's actually showing people stuff based on interest, not based on how much money the platform can make. So I think it's a lot better. Anyways, thank you so much. Again, I appreciate you. So much love to whoever is on the other side of this little screen. Please reach out to me. Hit me up in the comments. You know, I love it. I love the interaction, and, you know, share this with someone who really needs it, and have yet another amazing day, night, afternoon, morning, wherever it is, whatever it is for you when you're seeing this. You saw this at the perfect time, and we're so lucky to have connected. I appreciate you, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.